And for more, I'm joined by our international affairs editor, Philip Turle. Philip, what's the latest here? We're looking at a real humanitarian crisis, it seems.
Well, there's good news and bad news, Monty. The good news is that in some areas the water levels are beginning to go down a little bit, but we've had up to 3.5 metres in some of the towns and villages close to where the dam has burst, and that means that thousands of people have been forced from their homes in a catastrophic manner because they've had to rush away, leaving everything and just take the bare minimum and their domestic animals with them as best they can. So water levels are going down. Second good news is that the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant for the moment doesn't appear to have been affected by what has happened. Water levels there are reported to have gone down, not that they went up because they're going downstream from the dam, but that's not a good sign for the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant because it uses water from the lakes nearby to cool the turbines. Those turbines are switched off for the time being, so there's not much to worry about, so it seems, from the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. But there's more bad news, I'm afraid. There's more bad news than good news. The bad news being that we can see here from this map behind me the distance of the flooding and the enlargement of the river since the Dnipro River, since the dam was destroyed yesterday, which basically means that at least 35 villages on one side, the northern side, which is under Ukrainian control, and 35 villages on the southern side under Russian control have had to been evacuated, and at least 2,000 people are at risk of flooding. On top of that, people are talking about the smell of oil in the area since the dam was destroyed, basically because engine oil, 150 tons of engine oil, has been spilled into the waters, which is going to lead to some kind of ecological disaster in the long term. And another problem that has also been highlighted is the fact that anti-personnel mines have also been swept away in the water currents, and they could pose a serious threat to safety once the level of the water begins to go down. So it is a very difficult, dangerous situation, and many people don't know at the moment when they're going to be able to get home, or if that's going to be anytime soon.
Well, so Ukraine and Russia have been blaming each other for the destruction of this dam. You know, this is the big question. Who has the most to gain from its collapse?
Well, let's put it this way. The finger is pointing more at Russia than it is at Ukraine. It's pointing more at Russia because Vladimir Putin is visibly worried and scared. He's seen also the situation in Bakhmut. He's having to deal with Yevgeny Prigozhin and the Wagner Group, and he hasn't managed to seize a single town or city for months. And there is this impending counteroffensive coming from the Ukrainians. So he has to do something to stop that from advancing. So the logical explanation would be to bomb this dam to stop forces from Ukraine from stepping over the Dnipro River into the southern part of Ukraine under Russian occupation and then into Crimea. That would explain why Russia would be interested in trying to destroy that dam to slow down the advance of the counteroffensive if it hasn't already got underway. But the problem for the Russians is that in doing that, they're also hindering their own forces because Russian troops close to Kherson are having to flee the area to avoid the flood waters. And it's going to pose a serious threat to drinking water supplies also and to irrigation in the southern part of Ukraine and in Crimea, where there is an arid climate and not much rainfall. So that's going to pose a serious threat. But maybe the generals in Russia have been weighing up the positive and the negative points, and they think it's better to destroy the dam to prevent the counteroffensive, and they'll worry about the effects of it later on. From the Ukrainian point of view, it's difficult to see why they would destroy this dam. Many are saying, well, it's to take attention off the counteroffensive because it's not going as well as it should. And the second point is that they want to stop water supplies getting into Crimea to turn those in Crimea against the Russians to join forces with the Ukrainians to try to push Russia out of Crimea. So those are the arguments being put forward at the moment on both sides.